X and Josh McClain. It's Urza Outcome versus Amulet Titan. And on the standard seat, we do have Eric Johnson on Bant Golos versus Matt Nass's Simic midrange. But here we go for our legacy match. Baeckstrom on the play, starting with a Tropical Island. And first question is, do we have a Stifle? And yes, we do. He gets a Stifle on a Verdant Catacombs, so Danny loses the first turn there.
Right, and this is a spot where it looks like Batterman's hand may be kind of land heavy, so losing the turn of development's going to feel bad, but it's not like Batterman's completely out of the game either. That being said, that's kind of what Delver wants to happen anyway. It's not trying to fight the card advantage fight.
Yeah, and it's actually hard. The Stifle game, when you have a blue mirror, it gets really complicated. These timing windows, when do you fetch, when do you leave up mana? When you're playing something like Celestia Depths here, you kind of just have to run into Stifle.
Yeah, you're playing at sorcery speed, and you kind of say, you know what, show me.
It is a Tarmogoyf from Baeckstrom. It's 2-3. That's Batterman wisely setting up here with basics.
It looks like there's a chance that they might not have another green source in their hand. So it's possible this Stifle's very strong here. We see a green sensing that's hiding out that Batterman elected not to cast for something like a Dryad Arbor.
Yeah, looking at the cards that require white mana here, Batterman is stuck to 3 Paths to Exile, 3 Giver of Runes, and 2 Tomic Distinguished Advocist. Now, it looks like Batterman does have a green mana source in this Savannah, and they waited here out of respect for Wasteland.
Yeah, this is a spot where this plays around Wasteland and Daze a little bit.
I like this. Batterman passes. There's a Wasteland on the table. There's a Savannah on the table. Batterman has crop rotation and is daring Andrew to try to waste his land.
Right. Here you kind of just want to create a situation where you make sure you actually have that green source, or can even maybe just threaten the combo on the following turn if you can find something like a Mox Diamond.
One of the things I love about Legacy here is Batterman's board is a Plains and a Savannah. And the first thing we say is maybe you can threaten the combo next turn.
Let's be honest, Matthias, you just like threatening the combo.
Look at all these rests. Clearly Danny's very close to comboing here.
I think they could be doing anything, and you just want to hear about threatening a combo. It's fine. It's fine.
Not a big fan of Savannah, but I do like what Danny's doing with Savannah.
I love what they've done with the plays.
Ponder here for Baeckstrom did not like what he saw, so shuffles. The Ponder brings Tarmogoyf up to a 3-4.
And this is kind of the game that Delver wants to play most of the time, is just putting something on the battlefield and then having the opponent not do anything relevant while applying pressure.
Second Wasteland for Baeckstrom. Now, because sacrificing a land is a cost to crop rotation, there's no real way for Baeckstrom to Wasteland away this Savannah.
No, and this is sort of a leveled thinking situation where Batterman wanted to present a juicy target for Wasteland. Since Batterman knows that they're a Depths deck, Wasteland's good against their combo, so instead it's better to not use something like Green Sun's Zenith to get a Dryad Arbor, because then Baeckstrom might hold on to Wasteland instead.
So Batterman decides to crop rotate the land away. Spell Pierce from Baeckstrom. That's going to get the crop rotation and the Savannah.
Oh, that's brutal.
And now Thespian Sage from Batterman, but there's no green mana up, which means these Wastelands have found a target.
Yeah, this is a rough spot here.
So what was Batterman then trying to crop rotate for? Was this just to pull the trigger there? Because you can't actually make a 20-20 with 2 Wastelands on the board.
It might at that point just to try to make it look like they were getting something big and flashy, but it wouldn't have shocked me if their play there was just to get a basic forest.
Okay. Yeah, that Danny wanted a reusable green mana source.
Yeah, exactly.
Hooting Mandrills from Baeckstrom.
Ooh, leaving just a sorcery in the graveyard, tapping that Wasteland down.
I like tapping down the Wasteland. So, yeah, Baeckstrom keeps the sorcery, and Bazooka Bog means Tarmogoyf back to being a 1-2.
Danny bogging themselves here.
Yeah, just
in their
shrink the
Knight
Goyf.
of the Reliquary deck.
And with Knight of the Reliquary in Danny's hand.
Right.
It's not just the later Knights will be smaller. It is this one.
Oh.
Ren and 6. This is a problem. Wasteland away the Bog. Ren and 6 gets back the Wasteland. A swing for 6. Batterman down to 5.
Oh. Batterman's
and that's
going to
be it. Yeah, Andrew Baeckstrom takes game 1 here.
And that was a game where it just didn't really feel like Batterman was ever in it. That was the Temur Delver playbook. You stifle their first land, you play a Tarmogoyf, you spell pierce their next spell, you wasteland their land, and all of a sudden it turns out the opponent's been losing life this whole time and the game's over.
Right. Resource denial, 1 threat. Baeckstrom played it to the playbook. It really felt like the decision that Danny had to make was when to go for crop rotation.
Right. And you could have either gone for that basic forest or instead of that, maybe played out the Thespian stage first.
Yeah, that would have given Danny enough mana to pay for a Spell Pierce, but it's not always fair to look at that way because it's not like Spell Pierce is Baeckstrom's only way to screw things up.
Sure, right. No, it wasn't necessarily something that was going to win in the game, but it kept him in the game, and it feels like that is a win against Temur Delver.
So, Danny will have to collect both of the sideboarded games. We look over at the board here. 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Palace Jailer, 2 Council's Judgments. So some removal, some surgical extraction, and then a lot of lands here, just some single answers. But what can he go toward against the Temur Delver deck?
So in this particular matchup, a lot of what you're trying to do is just be a little bit better at being a fair game, just because Delver's a resource denial strategy and you're ultimately kind of a combo deck. You want the game to try and go a little bit longer because eventually those dazes, those spell pierces, the soft permission, or all of this soft permission, it loses value if you just play lands. So if you can prolong the game, hit your land drops, you'll presumably end up coming out ahead. So you're going to be looking at things like Palace Jailer. Council's Judgment is great because it answers True Name Nemesis. These are the things that Batterman's going to have to try and check Baeckstrom's threats in order to prolong the game.
Wants to play a fair game. That part makes sense. How much does the Dark Depths combo happen in this matchup?
So that's going to vary a lot, but it's generally Batterman's best way to win. The nice thing about the Selesnya Depths deck is you do have access to things like Knight of the Reliquary and Tomic Distinguished Advocist, which are just good in the heads-up fights,
right,
and then also provide redundancy and protection for your combo.
Certainly this is the matchup that Batterman had in mind. For those of you joining us, of the teams here on day 2, 11 of the 28 teams registering Temur Delver. It was the most popular deck by almost 3 times as much as any other deck.
It is almost half the room.
Right.
Out of 28 decks, it's 11 of them.
And you can even see the effect it has on Batterman's deck list. For example, Mother of Runes was cut for Giver of Runes, a card that is typically worse, but it has a 2nd point of toughness. That is because of Temur Delver.
Yep, it is exactly because of Renin 6. You can make an argument for it being because of Plague Engineer, but the big thing is just the 2-mana Planeswalker that's kind of subtly taking over Legacy, it feels like.
I mean, even these 2 main deck Tomics, that's another Renin 6 respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Just turns off the plus ability on Renin 6, hurts the Wasteland loops that kind of draw you to something like Renin 6 and might turn a Great Keep into an unplayable hand.
So you want to keep up to date on these movings in Legacy, you can subscribe to the Star City Games newsletter. This is delivered each week for free into your mailbox. You get highlights from the week's articles, upcoming locations for the SCG Tour, and IQs near you. You can sign up for free, starcitygames.com/newsletter. Even with the lists of Temur Delver we've seen this weekend, there's actually been a lot of variation in them.
Yeah, there are a few different packages that you can see in the deck. Some are Temur Delver with black cards, but it's basically a Temur Delver deck, but those abrupt decays are ways that people are fighting things like Narset or just other problematic permanents against counterspell-heavy decks, maybe even Blood Moon.
See here some Go Eagles from Baeckstrom. Batterman responds with Go Dodgers. Now, this is a baseball team playing against a football team. So,
do you think someone wants to tell Danny where we are? I don't, I'm going to level with you. I don't know sports, but I do know the Eagles are Philadelphia, right?
Right. The Eagles are Philadelphia.
Oh, thank
Yep.
Christ. Okay.
We're doing good so far.
All right. And we are in Philadelphia.
We are in Philadelphia.
So maybe this isn't, you got to pick your spots.
So the Dodgers are playing baseball tonight, and the Eagles are playing football right now. Mm-hmm. So I guess the question in this matchup is, first of all, what sport are they playing?
Foot bat.
I think I'll give the edge to the Eagles. You get 53 football players on a team, and you get 25 baseball players. So first of all, they got them outnumbered 2-1, regardless of what sport we're playing.
This joke has very quickly exited anything that I actually know. You could tell me there are 80 players on each team, and I'd go, wow, Matthias, that's incredible.
Great. That means we can just keep going with it, right?
No, you know what? Yes. You keep going.
I think the question is who's pitching today for the Eagles?
You know what?
And is it a good matchup?
Maybe.
Is the Eagles quarterback right or left-handed? We have to know how we're going to platoon against him.
I don't know. It depends how they feel about the three-point line.
There we go. Boom. Other matchup here. Josh McClain takes game one for his team as well. Urza Outcome over Ari Lax. Actually, I don't know. I think Carson Wentz is right-handed. It's very important.
For what?
Well, you have to know how to make your lineup.
I don't know who that is. I don't know what sport they play. I don't know if they play sports.
We're mixing them here. None of this makes sense.
For all I know, you just go, oh, they were a founding father. I don't.
Well, we are in Philadelphia.
What? Yeah. Is that relevant?
Well, the Liberty Bell's nearby.
I buy it. Yeah. That sounds real.
Baeckstrom going to 6.
Call that a double dribble.
Yeah, that means Danny's going to get the ball. Not allowed.
So when does a frisbee get involved?
Well, is it a frisbee golf frisbee or an ultimate frisbee? Because it'll be different depending.
I mean, I feel like one evolves into the other, Pokemon style, right?
Okay, so then it would be when you trade the frisbee.
That Go Eagles thing, I feel like you have to have your sideboard notes
Yeah.
put away.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can't know anymore. Hold on.
All right, what goes in and what comes out? Oh, yeah, Go Eagles.
There we go. Batterman on the play. They're going to start out with turn 1, Giver of Runes. The 1/2s mentioned safe from most removal in this matchup. I'd look at Baeckstrom's list. I believe just lightning bolts that can deal with it.
Most importantly, it has saved me from sports references.
I like the transition from sports into Pokemon. That worked out.
Wow.
Baeckstrom, this is a nice card. Baeckstrom will cast Insectile Aberration.
I don't think you're allowed to spend mana on that. How great would it be? All right, so your top card is an instant or sorcery under the old mulligan, right? And you just go ahead and transform the Insectile Aberration as you cast it.
Mox Diamond here from Batterman puts Wasteland in the yard. Ancient Tomb. This goes up
so
to
much
4 mana. Knight of the Reliquary. With 1 floating.
Hey, that's actually very convenient here.
Yeah, so, okay, we have Knight of the Reliquary with 1 floating. Can't be dazed. Giver of Runes protecting it.
It's bigger than a bolt, too.
This is really powerful.
This is the spot where if you have something like a Force of Will, you just have to pull the trigger.
Well, that's the only way that Baeckstrom answers this.
We see a card there, and the thing hasn't resolved, so you assume it's happening.
Okay, so it is a force. I was wondering if this is a matchup where Baeckstrom would leave his forces in. And he's rewarded for doing it. This is his only way of answering.
Oh, you absolutely have to. Against anything with a combo that's just kind of a bunch of things that barely do something and then payoff cards, Force of Will's going to shine there.
And Giver of Runes swings in.
Getting busy.
Looks like Brainstorm was the pitch to Force of Will. But that's a 2-for-1 for Batterman. Baeckstrom we go. Delver stays a 1-1. And to try to set up that transform with Ponder, we see Land, Daze, Hooting Mandrills. It's a hard one to keep. He has to shuffle. He has another Hooting Mandrills in his hand.
Yeah, it wasn't a fetch land. So there's only one card in the... Well, I guess this Ponder will make 2 cards in the graveyard. Daze does not look very good in the face of a Mox Diamond and an Ancient Tomb. It's really just not close to what Baeckstrom's looking for in this spot.
Yeah, the only upside there would be transferring the Delver is not worth enough. And so we'll tack in for 1 and play Scalding Tarn. Knight of the Reliquary number 2 from Batterman. Does Baeckstrom have another Force of Will? Don't think so.
Well, cards are untapping. I doubt it.
Preordain will transform the Delver, and so now Baeckstrom has to race. We have a 4/4 Knight of the Reliquary with protection from Giver of Runes. And the Knight's going to grow here as well, off that Wasteland, you'd think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that doesn't even get into the fact that Knight can start trying to filter things like Savannah to combo pieces if they wanted to.
I think that's an interesting question. When Batterman untaps with the Knight, do they turn it sideways and attack, or do they set up a combo?
So there's a spot where you might not necessarily set up a combo, but you're likely looking for a better land and to increase your clock here. Attacking for 4 is going to take 5 turns to actually kill Baeckstrom, but if you could get your Knight to, say, a 5/5 or a 6/6, then that's going to take roughly the same amount of time, but you get a bigger creature for your trouble and get to play around things like Magmatic Sinkhole.
Fetch here from Baeckstrom. Enough mana cards in the yard now for Hooting Mandrills. Though a 4/4 not going to do too much on a board against Knight of the Reliquary.
It's possible that Baeckstrom might try to set up... You can't even double block. I was about to say a double block, but then this Giver of Runes just blows it out.
Right. I could pick a blue or green. Both would win the combat. Swinging, though, for 3. Ander is keeping damage going. Looks like has Batterman down to 13. So, Knight main phase. Going to sacrifice the Savannah, float a mana here. Maybe it is going to be the combo that Batterman goes to.
Yeah, if there's another way, say Batterman drew a Dark Depths or a Thespian Stage this turn, you can just make a 20/20.
And it looks like the combo that'll be selected is the I have a lot of wastelands combo.
I mean, it's a potent one with Knight of the Reliquary. We saw a Council's Judgment as well, hiding out in Batterman's hand. It's possible that Batterman just decides to take out this Hooting Mandrills and say, all right, let's race.
Right. Well, and they have some options here. So they cast Council's Judgment. Could go for either here. It is going to be Hooting Mandrills. Actually, it's going to be Insectile Aberration. And that actually makes sense, right? Because Knight holds down the ground. Wastelands takes care of most of the mana. Leave Baeckstrom with just a tropical island. He says go. Back to Baeckstrom we go. He's got one more hit lined up with this Hooting Mandrills.
Things get pretty dicey now. So Batterman is down to 7, and now just kind of has to sit back with this Knight of the Reliquary.
And Wasteland from Baeckstrom this time takes care of most of the board. But you're right, the Knight of the Reliquary, plenty big. And here's Path to Exile out of Batterman.
Oh.
There are not basics in Andrew's deck. So that's cleared away. We look at the graveyard. 6 lands in the graveyard. This is an 8/8 Knight of the Reliquary. But looks like still going to go searching.
Make that a 9/9.
See what kind of lands Batterman has here. Outside of mana-producing lands, kind of the utility lands in the deck. 1 Karakas, 3 Dark Depths, a Bazooka Bog, a Cavern of Souls, and a Sajiri Step. So it looks like it's Bog. Takes care of Baeckstrom's graveyard.
Just trying to turn off things like another Hooting Mandrills. Also makes a Wrenn and 6 so much worse.
Brainstorm from Baeckstrom. After losing that volcanic island and the tropical island, he doesn't have many resources to work with, trying to find a way to get 7 more damage across. Finds Misty Rainforest. It's like at least 1 lightning bolt in hand.
Yeah, there's a bolt hiding out, so honestly, if there could be something like maybe another insectal aberration, a Tarmogoyf. It needs to come fast, though.
And this is a 9/9 hit from Knight of the Reliquary.
Over half of Baeckstrom's life total. This means that Baeckstrom's just dead next turn if he doesn't find a way to deal with this Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, he's down to 8. Now down to 7 off the fetch.
Well, if he knows his top cards aren't good enough from Brainstorm, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
Yeah, he has 1 lightning bolt in hand, but Danny is inconveniently at 7, not 6.
It depends which side of the table you're on.
Yeah, that's true. The question is where you could find that last point of damage. He can throw this lightning bolt upstairs, or he can, and that's what he'll do, Batterman to 4. No real point in throwing it at Giver of Runes. Andrew doesn't have a way to answer a Knight of the Reliquary anyway.
Right, it's just way too big at this point.
Ponder. See Wrenn and 6, another Ponder, and a Daze. None of those help, and we will go to game 3.
And that almost felt like game 1, but in the opposite direction, where it's just both players trying to wasteland each other out of the game.
Well, and I loved the mana advantage Danny Batterman had. We saw turn 2, Ancient Tomb, Mox Diamond, make Knight with Daze backup. It's a tough spot there for Andrew to be able to keep pace.
Yeah, and it's hard to even feel like Baeckstrom could have seen it coming, right? So Batterman leads on turn 1 Giver off of a land.
Right.
And does nothing else. And then on turn 2, plays a Mox Diamond, and then an Ancient Tomb, and all of a sudden it's gone from 1 to 4 mana out of nowhere.
And even in that situation, you know, Baeckstrom had the first Force of Will, which is as much as you can ask for.
Right, absolutely. You know, you can answer the first threat, but you still need to either be able to apply pressure, which Baeckstrom hadn't really been able to develop. He played the 1 Delver, but Hooting Mandrills got answered just too fast. Baeckstrom's cards didn't line up very well because some of that soft permission just wasn't good anymore. We saw him have to shuffle away Daze, and the game just kind of got away from him.
Coming up soon on the SCG Tour, we are reaching time for SCG Regionals happening this fall. So Season 2 Regional Championships now just 2 weeks away here. It's a modern tournament. They are happening around the country. So we get an exclusive playmat and tokens to the first 200 players to register at each location. That is going to be the 1/1 human token and the servo token of Colin Roundtree, our champion from the Season 1 Invitational. These are given out. Now, if you do show up, this is part of the SCG Tour, which means a bunch of things. First of all, if you top 8, you will receive an invite to SCG Con Winter. That's 8 invitations per regional championship. There is a lot of money on the line. You see here $1,200 to first place, paying all the way to the top 32 players. And lastly, there's SCG points available. Help you get toward that player's championship or toward the Invitational. You can find a location near you. We have 12 different locations around the country. They are on your screen right now. You can see a list of these also on our website, starcitygames.com/regionals. And registration is now open. Modern taking some pretty big shakeups as well. We had some bannings, some new cards. This weekend, Urza Outcome, the deck by Josh McClain, looks to be the new player.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Emery, Lurker of the Loch, just looks so strong.
Some updates here. Ari Lax takes game 2 on his side, so he and Josh will go to a game 3. And finally, over on Standard, we finish game 1, and that winner is... That's been the whole weekend.
You know what? I want to give him props for finishing game 1.
And Matt Nass takes game 1 with Civic Midrange.
Really, just incredible stuff. Only taking 25 minutes to play that first game.
Third game here, we have Teamer Delver on the play.
And that's exactly what this deck wants to be, because so much of the archetype is simply leveraging mana advantages.
That's exactly it. Game 1, he kept, through Stifles, Wastelands, a Spell Pierce, he kept Danny from making any sort of big plays. Game 2, Danny had 4 mana on turn 2, and, basically the doors were burst wide open.
And, look at this. We see Danny leading on a basic forest and then accelerating their mana.
Yeah, Greensun Zenith for 0, getting Dryad Arbor right into the face of open mana. And I was going to say Baeckstrom didn't daze it, but that's because Baeckstrom has Ren in 6.
Oh, you know what? Normally you have to +1 and make a land drop to wasteland your opponent. -1, you just get to kill the land. Perfectly fair here.
You get the land drop and the land destruction.
Usually got to pay double for that kind of action.
And that's a huge swing here. That puts the mana denial strategy back on the table.
Right. There's a point where having this basic forest is going to help Danny and make sure that they at least get to play a little bit of Magic. But this Ren in 6 is seriously looking to do some, just a ton of work here.
Yeah, there's not a wasteland for it yet, but we already see fetch lands in the graveyard. A wasteland on Danny's side. That would normally be good in this matchup, but against a Ren in 6, you don't even want to use it.
Yeah, what do? Blow up a tropical island to make Baeckstrom
play it again?
Tropical island?
Yeah, and you see Batterman using the wasteland for mana. They recognize it right away. Two mana here. No white yet. Looks like we see crop rotation, and that makes sense. Danny floating that mana. They don't want to get it to get dazed, but they do want to sacrifice the wasteland.
And this is fine, but it doesn't feel like a huge victory.
Right, a bog. I'm hoping that Baeckstrom doesn't have another fetch land, but that is not the case.
Beats.
Really, it feels like Baeckstrom's last missing piece of this puzzle is to find a wasteland.
Yeah, you want a wasteland. Honestly, you also want something to apply real pressure past Ren in 6. This Ren in 6 is doing good work for now, but if Batterman could just say, play a Knight of the Reliquary,
right,
then this Ren in 6 is kind of foolish.
And we noticed that in game 2. Once a Knight of the Reliquary's on the board, Andrew's deck is not very good at answering it.
Exactly. It's just so big.
Right, we see here, looking at his deck list, between men and sideboard, no copies of True Name Nemesis in the list for Baeckstrom. That would be something maybe that could block a Knight, but it's not going to happen.
heads up play from Batterman here. So they played a Thespian stage, and on Baeckstrom's upkeep, copied their basic forest with Thespian stage.
And that means you can't wasteland it.
Exactly.
Baeckstrom will continue to fetch. Total of 6 mana producing lands in the deck. Baeckstrom's found 4 of them. Good news for Danny is eventually Andrew will stop having cards to find.
That is technically true.
Yeah. There's even another Valk in Baeckstrom's hand, so we're almost there.
I gotta level with you. Is that good news? Well, you know,
Means it's not getting any worse.
the good news is eventually Baeckstrom will have all the lands in his deck in play.
Yeah. Dark Depths here. Hold on.
Oh.
From Batterman, there's a Thespian stage.
Okay.
So once there's a 20/20 on the battlefield, Baeckstrom can't answer. There's no... Well, he has a Submerge.
There is Submerge out of the sideboard.
Right. That is all I'm seeing.
Yeah, it looks like that's really the only thing that does it here.
I suppose right now you see Batterman not going for the Merit Lage because of out of respect for Stifle.
Right, and there's also the point where with those Submerges, Batterman does have a forest in play right now.
Again, kind of going back to it, the missing piece to the puzzle for Baeckstrom is Wasteland. He still hasn't found it. When he does, this board gets easy to clean up.
Right.
Discarding to hand size. Second Wrenn and 6 goes away.
And note that Batterman did not go for it at all. There's a crop rotation in their hand, and it looks like their goal here is to try and set up a single step where they can use crop rotation to protect the Merit Lage with a Sajiri step.
Right. The land in their deck, Sajiri Step would give it protection from blue. Then Merit Lage can attack.
Right, and Batterman having a copy of Wasteland actually can give them a bit of agency on when they go for it in the face of Baeckstrom having a Wasteland. Where you say, Wasteland, Baeckstrom's Wasteland, Baeckstrom goes to fight back, and you respond to Baeckstrom's activation by implementing your combo.
Yeah, there's actually a lot for Batterman to play to here.
Oh, hey, we hit that thing where Baeckstrom has
There we
all
go.
his lands in play.
No more land.
Look at this bright side.
Wrenn and 6, up to 6 loyalty. And actually, yeah, Baeckstrom has drawn plenty of cards, but hasn't actually found much that helps here.
Right, he is pretty flooded.
It says go. We see Thespian's stage here, copying Wasteland.
Interesting.
Another stage from hand. Batterman, go ahead.
This is all about these layers of redundancy. You know, it doesn't always come up that you actually get to do all of this stuff against the Temur Delver deck, but, you know, Baeckstrom doesn't have pressure, so Batterman just kind of gets to say, all right, well, I'm going to create a situation in which I have 3 points of interaction covered.
What is Batterman, what's the go point? What do they wait for here?
So here the big thing that they're probably trying to do is just to have as many bases covered as possible. And at this point, the thing that's limiting them is how much raw mana they have.
Crop rotation from Batterman. This feels like we're getting to the critical point. I want to talk about the Wrenn and 6 emblem, because once you can start retracing Submerges, things get a lot harder for Batterman.
Right. But look at this. Do you see a forest in play?
Okay, Forrester. Oh, no. Submerge isn't always free, is it?
Nope.
This is nice.
Baeckstrom has 6 lands in play, and so now Batterman's plan is to simply blow up 2 lands from Baeckstrom during Baeckstrom's main phase 2.
This is so well done.
Then, on the end step, you make the Merit Lage, which beats the hard cast Submerge, because now there's only 4 mana producing lands, and there's no forest in play, and Batterman just has the read that that's Baeckstrom's only point of interaction.
This is so well done. It's, you know, you were talking about Sajiri Step. That's the line people think of. This one takes practice to see.
Oh, right, yeah. Batterman, absolute master of this archetype, knows their deck in and out. This is their archetype. And this is why. This is the payoff for learning your deck like this.
This is so good. Wastes. Baeckstrom down to 5 mana and now down to 4. Batterman's going to go for the Merit Lage. And you see Baeckstrom pausing on the second wasteland saying, oh.
Wait a second. How did I... Are you serious?
Yeah. And he floats a mana. I mean, you know, a Stifle would have done something there, but he doesn't have that. Now, I don't know if the Batterman can still play around Stifle. That still stops the Merit Lage.
That's true, but only for this turn.
Right, the actual trigger that makes Merit Lage continues to trigger.
Exactly. What you would end up having to stifle is the Thespian stage activation.
Right. Because if you wait for the Dark Depths, stifle that, then it just does it again.
Right.
So Hooting Mandrills from Baeckstrom.
And this is just sort of Baeckstrom saying, well, all right, I hope this is good enough. I can't beat it anyway.
Says go. And yeah, stifles the Thespian stage. Baeckstrom buys himself a turn. Now, what he also could do, if it's not over though, because if Batterman... Batterman needs to make Merit Lage now, because if Batterman doesn't, Baeckstrom can make a Wrenn and 6 emblem and stifle every turn.
Exactly.
And just start retracing the stifle.
Right. This is go time. This is the moment.
And I love the patience on Batterman's side, recognizing that this is the pivotal turn, setting up for it with 2 Wastelands. I mean, when Batterman first Thespian staged the Wasteland, we were pretty confused.
Right.
This is nice. A Path to Exile on Hooting Mandrills. No basics in Baeckstrom's deck. He'll daze it. Batterman pays. So Baeckstrom dazes again. Batterman pays again. But now with all this happening, Batterman can't make Merit Lage this turn.
So there is a point where how many lands does Baeckstrom actually have? Because each time you retrace a stifle, it does cost a land. On top of all of that, Baeckstrom is nowhere near Submerge anymore.
Right. Be interested to see how this goes. So Wrenn and 6 can emblem this turn.
And this Elvish Reclaimer is a 3/4.
Okay.
It's a real threat on its own.
So we see the emblem from Baeckstrom. Now all his spells have retrace. Specifically, we're looking at the Stifle in his graveyard.
Reclaimer. Okay, so Batterman has a second Bojuka Bog.
That's interesting. It's in the sideboard, but it could have been brought in.
If there's one copy in the deck still, then it looks like... Oh, okay. So, from here, Elvish Reclaimer can actually get the second Bojuka Bog and turn off Retrace Mattering at all. And the patience here from Batterman is just absurd.
Yeah.
Batterman kind of realizes that they're not actually under any kind of pressure here. You just have the ability to stare and say, all right, you have an emblem, but...
7 cards in hand for Baeckstrom. Along with the Wrenn and 6 emblem.
You can feel Baeckstrom just kind of looking for any way out here.
How did it? You know, it's one of those things you spent so much of the game getting extra cards, having an uncontested Wrenn and 6, made all the way to the emblem. As the Delver player, you just feel there should be a way to do this.
Right, he was discard stepping at one point.
Right. Says go. We see Thespian stage. Try to copy Dark Depths. It's going to be a Stifle again from Baeckstrom. And because of this emblem, Baeckstrom can do this for a while.
Batterman says, okay, and?
All right, fetches in response. But we already know there's lands in Baeckstrom's hand, right? So this is going to get... Things can just keep getting stifled.
Well, the big thing is this: if this is with Stifle on the stack, it can't be retraced because it's not currently in his graveyard.
It's true. Well, there might be another Stifle in his graveyard. Either way, he fetches for a forest, Elvish Reclaimer goes and gets another Thespian stage. So this means he can stage twice a turn.
Right, just looking for one more land in order to be able to do that, but I have a feeling the deck's not going to have that hard a time finding a source of mana.
Danny plays a few of them. This is really neat. Without a Wrenn and 6 rebuying a card every turn, eventually Baeckstrom will run out of cards if he's always retracing.
Right, this is a spot where every time Baeckstrom does this, it feels like a free spell, but it isn't.
There's the mana source, Verdant Catacombs from Batterman. As long as they have a land that they can find with it, which isn't guaranteed.
It's hard to imagine there's not something like a Savannah. And there's even a line that...
Yeah.
There's a line that Batterman could take where they crack to get a Savannah, Thespian stage on the Dark Depths. Once the Thespian stage resolves, and then you have this 0 counter land, with that trigger on the stack, then you shove the forest out with the Reclaimer, and then Submerge is still turned off.
All right, renew Wrenn and 6 from Baeckstrom. Pluses, starts to rebuy lands. Those are spells. Currently we see Daze in the graveyard.
This is a bit of a problem now.
Right now, because now Baeckstrom is getting 2 cards a turn.
Exactly. This is kind of the point where things might start to get out of hand. What a game. This is so back and forth. Because it feels like both players just should have won by now.
Certainly, each person has been ahead at different points in the game.
Exactly. All right, well, this person can activate Thespian Stage on depths twice. All right.
And end step goes for the Merit Lage, and it looks like Baeckstrom shakes the hand there.
There it is. That was unbelievable.
So Batterman takes the match 2-1, which goes over to standard between Matt Nass and Eric Johnson. Matt Nass was up a game. So in that situation, yeah, Baeckstrom just out of stifles.
Yeah, yeah.
And here we see Eric Johnson fighting a game down. Agent of Treachery stealing a heavy loyalty Oko.
And it looks like there's a Nissa emblem over on Matt's side. I mean, there are a bunch of forests in play. We can probably put it together, but there is so much going on here.
Yeah, we have a Wicked Wolf with 2 counters. We have a Gilded Goose. Agent of Treachery stealing an Oko here, making a food. Now we have life totals. Matt Nass at 20, Eric at 7. And Brazen Borrower
gets the blocker out of the way and is exactly enough damage to finish it up.
Yeah, between the Wolf and the Goose, that is enough damage. So it's 3 from the Borrower and then 4 from Wolf.
Right.
And that's going to be 7. So we check in just at the end. Despite the loss there from Baeckstrom, his team is victorious. McClain wins and Matt Nass wins 2-0. So they improve to 10